Hello, everyone. We're sorry for being delayed today. We had a little bit of an issue with streaming to Facebook Live, but here we are. We'll wait for all of you to jump back on this link here that we sent out a few moments ago, but I'd like to welcome you all to Jazz Slam. This is session 1 of 3, actually, with Mari Bell, and we are so thrilled to be having you here today. We are also joined by the class of the Jazz Education Network's chapter at Grass Valley Elementary School in Camas, Washington. And their teacher is here, Mrs. Natalie Wilson. Hi, Natalie.
Hi, you guys. So glad to be here.
Hello, students. Hey, everybody. It's great to see all of you. All right.
Hello.
It's so wonderful to have a live audience today. Before I turn it over to Mari, I would just like to say that if you are not a member of the Jazz Education Network, please join us. You can check us out on the web at jazzednet.org. We have a number of different memberships. We are dedicated to advancing education, promoting performance, and developing new audiences for America's greatest musical art form. And so without further ado, we're going to turn it over to Mari. If you have questions during the session today, please put them in the chat of this live video. There's also a description, or in the description to the video is a link to download the teacher resources for this session. It includes a teacher's guide as well as a quiz you can give your students after they watch this video. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce Mari Bell. Mari holds a dual master's degree in elementary education and music education, and also a master's degree in social work. She created this program, JazzSLAM, Jazz Supports Language, Arts, and Math, 20 years ago, and has been teaching it in schools all over the country ever since. Mari's also received a few grants from our Jazz to You grant program to do this, and today is no exception. So we are absolutely delighted to welcome Mari Bell and the class of Grass Valley Elementary School for this very first virtual Jazz Slam presented by the Jazz Education Network. Mari.
Hey, thank you so much, Jesse. So, first of all, I want to kind of explain Jazz Slam. What the acronym stands for is Jazz Supports, that's the S, and the LA is Language Arts, and the M is for Math. So what we're going to be talking about today is how many things happen in language arts and math and in geography and history, particularly American history, that also happen in music. We're also going to look at some test-taking strategies, problem solving, and critical thinking. So we've got a lot to accomplish in our time together. One of the greatest things about jazz is, in my opinion, that it celebrates diversity. And when jazz was created, mostly around the New Orleans area, there were so many people living in New Orleans at that time, the Irish, the French, the English, Native Americans, people from the Caribbean, people from Central and South America, and Russian Jews. Everybody was there, and in particular, that was a time when New Orleans was owned by the French, so it was freer than the rest of the country, which was owned by the English. While we listen to the songs, you're going to hear 7 great high school students who in 2013 were part of the Dillard Center for the Arts Jazz Band. And in fact, last weekend, a couple of days ago, I should have been in New York with this year's students while they again competed at the Essentially Ellington competition. But because of COVID-19, those students didn't get to go. But let's take a look first at this first song. And here is the group. This is the people in the JazzSLAM Quartet that you'll be seeing on screen, plus the Dillard students. So this is going to be the first song we listen to, and it was written by Dizzy Gillespie. Down there you can see his cheeks blown up like crazy, and he did that because he could store lots of air to play these super, super long trumpet lines. And he was what was part of jazz royalty. Our government sent jazz ambassadors all over the world to play this great music, to introduce people all over the world to the music. And in fact, we have nicknames for many of those ambassadors that come from royalty, like Count Basie, Duke Ellington, Nat King Cole, and some fun nicknames too. So the first song, we're going to see a student drummer, Sydney, playing drums. And we clap with her on 2 and 4.
There's a same moon above you, aglow with its cool evening light, shining tonight in Tunisia, but never does it shine so bright. The stars are aglow in the heavens, but only the wise understand that shining tonight in Tunisia, they guide you through the desert sand. Words fail to tell, a tale too exotic to be told. Each night's a deeper night in world ages old. The cares of the day seem to vanish, the ending of day brings release. Each wonderful night in Tunisia, where their nights are filled with peace.
Okay, we're going to stop it there because it goes on for a little bit for a while and we're a little behind time. But we're also now going to do the Jazz Slam theme song, and it is the same form. It is just like a narrative essay. You have an opening paragraph up here at the top where you introduce who, what, when, where, why. The second paragraph, you give more details. And in the third paragraph, the music changes. That in music is called the B section. The first two were A and another A. This is the B section in red. And some action happens. Just like when you write a narrative essay, some action has to happen. A problem gets revealed or something goes on there that you have to solve. And you do that in the last A. So in the Jazz Slam theme song, the problem that's revealed is you may really want to do well in school, but say you get very nervous, or say something bad is happening at home that you're preoccupied with. So we are going to be talking about ways to calm your mind down and to do your very best, no matter what is happening around you. Underlined and in blue are the word families. So you see in this song, Glory, the Ori family up in the first A. In the second A, it's the A family, A-Y. And in the B section, it's the Uddle family and the Issue family and the Us family. So again, since it's jazz, we clap on 2 and 4. In fact, you can, I'm going to stop for just a second and share my screen. So you can pretend that there's a wall out here for 1 and 3, and you clap on 2 and 4. You're going to go 1, 2, 3, 4. And you'll do that with the drummer, Sydney, and holler out Jazz Slam with our singer, Bob, when he sings it. So here we go on this one.
2, 3, 4. JazzSLAM, are you looking for some glory? JazzSLAM, they learn to write the story. JazzSLAM, write it from your heart, but first you have to understand the form. JazzSLAM, the form is the way. JazzSLAM, to organize what you say. JazzSLAM, all stories and opinions, I can help you say just what you mean. If your mind is in a funnel, your thinking's all a fuddle, come and spend an hour with us. If confusion is an issue, you can cry into your teacher. Your teachers will continue to fuss. JazzSLAM, watch everyone's reaction. JazzSLAM, when you rattle off all your fractions. JazzSLAM, the lyrics and the rhythms can help you with your writing and your math. Can help you with your writing and your math.
Okay, so hopefully you were able to clap on 2 and 4. Now let's take a look at this narrative essay, and let's pretend that it is an essay your teacher gives you to read, and he or she asks you a multiple choice question on what continent is Tunisia located. So sometimes we can get into negative thinking, and we can start telling ourselves stuff like, I've never even heard of Tunisia. I'm tired. I wonder what's for lunch, and get distracted. So what we want you to do and learn from JazzSLAM is to always throw out negative thinking and instead pick up your detective cap, put it on, and give yourselves an inner dialogue pep talk where you say, I can do it. I know there's a clue in here that can help me to answer on what continent is Tunisia located. So I'm going to stop the share and go back and let Ms. Wilson pick a student to answer that question. Okay. Ms. Wilson, you are muted.
Yeah.
You have to, yeah. Okay.
Is there somebody who wants to answer that question? Who knows where Tunisia is? Alex,
What was
do you know where it is?
clue? Don't yet go for where it is, but what was a clue to make sure that you're going to get the right answer, and to make it less of a guess, you want to look for the clue in what you just read. So did anybody see a clue?
Ada, go ahead.
It said that the moon will like guide you through the desert sand, so I'm assuming it's in a hot place on the desert. So probably like Africa or South America, I'm assuming.
Excellent, excellent being able to deduce it. Yes. So she is correct. And it is, we want to look for the hottest continent in the world. So what continent stays hot all the time? I think South America, they can get some snow and everything there. So what do you think of your choices would be the right one?
Go ahead, Hannah.
You said it.
I think it's Arizona or California. Maybe.
Those are very good guesses, but you have to go back and be sure you understand what a continent is, because those are states. So I think it was Hannah who was talking first, and she did have the correct answer in there. The continent was Africa. So we're going to keep going, and that is super important because Africa is where all civilization began, right down here, right below the Nile Valley in Ethiopia. That's where they found millions of years ago bones, and they were bones of a girl that they nicknamed Lucy. And this is important because all civilization migrated out of Africa. And we're going to take a little trip to show you how people got out of Africa. Africa is super important in the history of jazz because the rhythms came with the African people who were brought to America. But also, we're going to take a little migration tour to see how everyone got out of Africa after the Sahara Desert changed. It was possible for people to go out of, I'm not quite sure what that mark is, but let's take a tour. We're going to start down in Africa, and then we're going to see how people migrated over thousands of years across Asia and the Bering Straits to get into Alaska. Because years ago, you could walk to get to Alaska. Now it's water. So we can see that even now our planet is starting to have changes. And back in these days, there were changes happening too. So let's take this tour. Here
Mari,
we go.
I think Ada had a question for you.
Okay, let's finish the tour and then I'll let her ask. So we go up and across, all the way across Asia, and we cross the Bering Straits and go into, the native peoples went into Alaska, but a lot of people probably thought that was too cold, so they kept migrating down all over the United States and Canada. And the people that are most interesting to us ended up around New Orleans, Louisiana. So I am going to stop my screen share so that I can take that question. Yes.
I didn't have a question. I was just telling you that I was the one that said the continents, not Hannah, because I think you accidentally said Hannah, unless you were talking about.
Oh, great. I appreciate that. I can't see the names on my screen, so thank you for contributing that. Okay, so we're going to go back to the screen share, and we're going to take a look just quickly because the Native Americans were very important in Louisiana. They befriended the African Americans. So we're going to see our President Obama doing a native dance up in Alaska, and we're going to learn those moves. It's pretty easy. It's 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 2 and 2 and 3 and 4. So here we go. Oh, and this, I forgot I had this map too. This shows you all of the native tribes that settled all over the United States. Over 500 tribes. So when people say that Christopher Columbus discovered America, it's not really true. All of these native tribes were here. So let's watch President Obama, and you can try and do these moves with him. And I love the fact that the students in Alaska wore their native costumes. So we're going to take a quick look at a Muskogee Creek tribe that does a stomp dance, because that stomp dance very much influenced the African Americans and the dances that people still do today in parades in New Orleans. And it's also important because it's a call and response song, the earliest song form. The chief is going to give the call, and you can respond with the tribe members. So we won't do a lot of this. We'll just watch till the chief gets around on the left. So this is a map of the world, and if you look, migration was super important in the history of jazz because people came from Europe and from Africa, and the Europeans brought the Africans in slavery, which is the saddest part of American history. Across the ocean, the Europeans came from, if you can see my arrow, they went down and got the Africans and brought them from West Africa over not just to North America, but also the Caribbean islands and to South America. And there, the Africans really built those countries, the island nations, and they built our nation in America. So we are going to learn an African rhythm that came from Guinea, and you can do it with me. It has magical powers that people believe will heal you if you dance to this and if you learn to drum it. This is Lamba, a rhythm from Guinea, and it is a bass tone, 2 slaps, 2 pats, and 2 slaps. We're going to do it as swing rhythm first, and Orlando is going to kind of riff on it and just have some fun with it so you get to hear the polyrhythms in the African beat. And then we're going to straighten it out and let you hear what would be written the same way on sheet music, but how it would be if it was straight 8 notes and you were playing hip hop. Then we'll go back and do it as swing 8 notes. So here it is. Do with that rhythm? Were you able to do it? Okay, well, we're going to do another rhythm that is called Bambula. And first I'm going to show you a map of the Caribbean islands. And I see somebody has something to say, so if you would like to say it, is it pronounced Ada?
Yes, it's pronounced Ada.
Ada, okay.
I was just saying that my family is part Potawatomi, so while we were speaking, you probably saw my face really close up to the screen, and that was because I was trying to look for the name Potawatomi in the thing, because the Potawatomi tribe is in the Oklahoma, so my family kind of has, because my great-great-great-grandmother, I believe, was full Potawatomi, so we're part Potawatomi, I think, like a 30-second.
That is fantastic. And I am so glad that you shared that, because I want to encourage everybody, as part of JazzSLAM, we like you to go back and talk to your families. Ask them, why did we come to America? And how did the people who migrated in our family get here? So these are important parts of our country's history, and they make America the wonderful, diverse place that it is. So let's go back and let's look at a map of the Caribbean islands. Okay, I love this map because it shows you up where it says United States. That's where New Orleans is. And many people call New Orleans the northernmost Caribbean island, because the trade ships went back and forth between all the islands. So not only the people and the products were going, but also the music was being shared. So you see up at the top, that's New Orleans, where it says United States. And then you see Cuba here in red. You see Jamaica down here just below Cuba. And I just learned that the tribe, the native tribe that settled Jamaica, I'm just looking to see if I can see if I saved the name. They were called the Arawak, which I never knew before. I learned that from another webinar. And here's Haiti and the Dominican Republic, Puerto Rico, Trinidad and Tobago down here. So now we're going to learn this rhythm bambula, which many people from the Congo were brought in slavery to the islands and to the United States. And that rhythm bambula came from the Congo. But as we will hear from Senegal, our drummer from JazzSLAM, it's called different things on different islands, but it's all the same rhythm. So here we go.
In Trinidad, it was called calypso, and in Cuba, it was called tresillo. So the way the rhythm sounds is like the way the word sounds. And all the countries had the rhythm, but they said it in their own words. So we're going to try it out, and we're going to switch the words up, okay? So the rhythm goes, so you guys can try saying it, you're clapping it. And in Cuba, they call it and in Haiti, they call it and in Trinidad, they call it rhythm stroke.
Okay, we wanted to show you, this is a frieze. It pops out, it's very big, and it's in Congo Square in New Orleans, where every Sunday the African Americans were allowed to gather. They would come from the plantations and the homes that they worked in, and they could see their relatives who might live on a different plantation. And they would dance bambula, and they would dance talamba, So here you see some dancers and some drummers on the sides. And if you go to New Orleans today, you can still see this. Congo Square is now called Louis Armstrong Square. So we have been talking a lot about rhythms. Let's make sure we really understand rhythm. And we are going to divide it up and become a rhythm orchestra. So here you have an example of the subdivisions. And you can pick when we do this, not sure why that drawing is coming out, but you can pick which rhythm you want to be when we are doing it. Usually in a classroom, I get different groups to do it, but pick, and here we go with the rhythm orchestra.
We are going to become a rhythm orchestra. And Orlando is going to give us a pulse of 4 beats. And the first group will be a whole note pizza pie. You just clap on the 1. The second group is going to be the half notes. They clap 1, 2, 3, 4. The middle group will be in your classroom going like this, 1 on each side. The 8th notes will be 2 on each side. And the 16th notes are 4 on each side. So here we go. He's going to give us a pulse. 2, 3, 4. Whole note, pizza pie, that group. Everybody on this side of the room. Good. Now keep that part going no matter what anybody else does. Half notes come in. The next group over. Good. Okay, next group is the quarter notes, 1 on each side. And the next group is the 8th notes. And the tiny little chipmunks over in the corner. Good. Now let's keep them alive and let's hear very loud the whole note, but keep your part going so you hear what it sounds like against the whole note. Good whole notes. Bring it down. Let's hear the half notes. Good. And the quarter notes. 8th notes. 16th notes. Here we go. Excellent. Now everybody very loud. Do your part.
Pick any part.
We can't hear you. Everybody doing your own part. And bring it down softly. Keep doing your own part. And then bring it back up one time to very loud, a crescendo. Very, very loud, and cut.
Okay, how did you do? So, let's talk a little bit about what we did. I'd like somebody to answer in that whole note pizza pie that you clapped, how many half notes could you fit? Somebody want to give it a try? Ms. Wilson, I'll let you call on them. People
Go ahead, Bella.
2.
Absolutely, 2 half notes. So you've got your pizza, and it divides into this piece over here and that piece. That means each half note is what fraction of the whole note pizza pie? Ms. Wilson, you want to call on them?
Take it away, Bella. Lily, can you finish that? What fraction is that?
1/2.
Excellent. So why don't we stick with you and just complete it, So each half note is what percentage of that whole note pizza pie? That's a little harder because I know. What grade are you all? Are you
third, fourth, and fifth?
Okay. So maybe somebody in fifth knows the answer to that. Each half note is what percentage of the whole note pizza pie? We said it's this whole note and it divided into two parts. The whole note is 100%. So what do you think each half note is? What percent?
Go, Delilah.
I think it's half of the whole note.
Yes. And what if it's half, how would you say that in a percentage?
1.5.
Almost, but it's got to be a percent.
Karen.
50%.
Perfect. 50%. Yes. Thank you. Great job, everybody. So how about if you clicked to, if you decided to do the quarter notes, how many quarter notes could you fit into each whole note pizza pie? Ms. Wilson, you want to call on them?
Alex, do you know how many quarter notes in a whole note?
4.
Excellent. So each quarter note, here's a whole note pizza, and it divides, let's see if I can make that look sort of like, it divides that way. So yes, you've got 4, and each quarter note is what fraction of that whole note pizza pie?
Nora, do you know what that is? A quarter note is what percentage or what fraction of a whole note?
Do you want to call on somebody?
1/4.
Excellent, excellent. So that means each quarter note is what percentage of the whole note pizza pie?
What percentage, Layla? Oh, good job, Nora.
Did you say 25? Excellent, I didn't hear that. Okay, so we're not going to do percentages on the next question, but with the eighth notes, how many eighth notes does it take to fill that whole note pizza pie? Now, before you answer, I want to assure you that there is, again, a clue in the question, because the number on the bottom and the top are going to have to match. So if you know I asked how many eighth notes, how many 1/8 notes, that's going to give you a clue to tell you how many are going to equal one whole. So who thinks they know? Oops.
Layla.
So the fraction would be 8/8.
Absolutely, great job. How about the 16th notes? How many 16th notes does it take to fill the whole pizza?
Anybody chime in?
Anybody, put yourself off mute and tell me.
16 out of 16.
Absolutely, great job. So now I am going to give you a pattern, and this is the only one that we'll analyze. And then for fun, our drummer Orlando is going to give you a whole bunch of one-bar patterns for you to copy by clapping or stomping your feet as he does. So here is going to be my pattern. Hold on. Okay.
We're going to do a pattern now that is the only one that we'll analyze, and we're going to have some fun with the drums. We'll do some other patterns. Each one only equals a whole note. This pattern I give you equals a whole note, but you need to listen and see if it was those 16th notes, 4 on each side, or the 8th notes, 2 on each side, or the quarter notes, 1 on each side, or the longer half notes, or the really long whole note. And tell me what you think. I'm going to do it once alone, and then I'll give you a whole note rest, and then you can join me and do it. Then I'll ask you to tell me what we were doing. So here we go. I'll give you a whole note rest. 1, 2, 3, 4. Rest. Now you can join me. 3, 4. Rest. 2, 3, 4. Rest. 2, 3, 4. Last time. 2, 3, 4.
Okay. So who thinks they know what were the little tiny chipmunk ones that we did first? What were they called? We did 4 on each side. Oh, good. I see lots of hands up, but I'm going to let you call on them, Ms. Wilson.
Chatham, what were they?
16th notes.
Excellent. So we used up half of our whole note pizza pie. We did 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Then we had another half left. And what were those notes called that were 2 on each side? Do you remember that? That's a little bit harder, and oh, good. I see Layla's hand up.
I think they were like half notes or fourth notes.
They were, we don't have that much left because we've already given away half of our pizza. So the group that did 2 on each side, then we went, those were called the 8 notes. So let's take a look and see what it looks like. We can do.
Excellent.
We can do a pie graph of what we just clapped. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 16th notes. And 4 8th notes filled the other half of our pizza pie. So great job. Now let's have Orlando give you some just for fun.
So now I'm going to demonstrate the quarter notes, the 16th notes, the half notes, and all that good stuff that we just went through. So when I play a rhythm, you're going to repeat it after me. So when I hit the snare drum, you're going to clap your hands. And when I hit the bass drum, you're going to stomp your feet. So I'm going to do a rhythm first, and you're going to repeat it after me. You guys ready? All right. Here you go. Good.
Okay. How did that go for you? So I want to encourage you to do that. Do it with your little brother and sister or your big brother and sister, or do it with your parents even. Set a beat where you got 4 steps. 1, left, right, left, and that person does the call with their hands, or if you're sitting down, you could do it with your hands and your feet, and the other person has to be challenged to repeat it back as a response. And it's super important because that is our simplest song form. And we're going to see in the next session of Jazz Slam how important it was that the field hollers that the African Americans did when they were working on the fields in different countries, or the Africans, I should say, because if they were on the Caribbean islands, they still were doing work songs to keep the rhythm and to lift their spirits. So that's the last part of our math part for Jazz Slam, and that's kind of the background history to jazz. And in the next 2 sessions, we're going to listen to a lot of jazz songs. So we have 1 song left. I'll explain it to you before I ask for questions. It is Louis Armstrong's favorite song. It's called When the Saints Go Marching In. And I want to encourage, when we do it, that everybody in the audience gets up and dances to it, because jazz is such a fun music, and it's about dancing and feeling the music, feeling the rhythm. And you dance the step that they do in New Orleans. The easiest one is right, left, right, and then it alternates left, right, left. So that's it. 1, 2, 3, and 4. And the great thing about When the Saints Go Marching In, and you're going to see a wonderful student from Dillard High School sing it, Ulysses, and it leaves the lyrics, the words, leave a lot of space so that you can respond. When he says, "Oh, when the saints," there's space for you to respond and say, "Oh, when the saints," repeat it back, call it back, go marching in, go marching in. So you'll see it's a lot of fun. And one other thing before I take questions, 2 other things I wanted to share with you. The quote on Jazz Slam that we use is from the great tenor saxophone player, Johnny Griffin. And he said, "Jazz is music made by and for people who have chosen to feel good in spite of conditions." And I think that's so perfect, because here we are in this locked down situation due to COVID-19, and going to this music can really lift our spirits. The other thing I wanted to share with you, if you go to JazzSLAM.com, click on additional links, and there are many, many, many live links for you to listen to. And there's so many different aspects of jazz that you can pick. Someone asked the question, how do you get your child interested in jazz? And I would say, look at what excites them, what part of jazz they like best, and pursue that. We're so lucky that there's so much on YouTube. A great place to start is with Louis Armstrong on YouTube, his videos. So with that said, does anybody have any questions that they want to ask me?
Anybody out there have a question for Miss Mari?
Looks like Layla has a question.
Well, it's not really a question. It's a comment, but I was born in New Orleans.
Oh, fantastic.
I moved to Camas like 2 years ago.
Oh my goodness. So do you know how to do what's called the second line dance that people do when they play the songs in the streets and parade down the streets?
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, that's great. Would you be willing, Jessie, when I put on that, can you show a screen with her dancing to encourage everybody to follow her?
Yeah, everybody out there can see Layla.
Excellent. Excellent.
I forget the steps, so I don't know.
Oh, you can just make them up. That's a great thing. People in New Orleans are what's called in French very laissez-faire, which means kind of anything goes. They're very accepting of anything and just having a good time in life.
I don't really want to do it, though.
Okay. So everybody, the great advantage if you're at home and watching this, nobody can see you do it. So get up and go for it. There was a question that came in that I wanted to answer too about, do I use any Dalcroze methods in my teaching? I studied Dalcroze years, I mean, so long ago in New York, with a very old woman who had so much energy. And Dalcroze is a wonderful technique where you actually get up and you walk for whatever the meter is. If it's 4, 1, 2, 3, 4 steps, and you kind of do a dip on one to show that it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then you clap different rhythms. And that's how Dalcroze teaches rhythm. And I think it's a fabulous method. So I'm glad somebody asked about it. Any other questions from anybody in the webinar, Jessie, or any of your students, Ms. Wilson? Okay, Ms. Wilson, you had a question?
I just want to ask my students to raise your hand if you learned something new today about jazz and the history. Awesome, the connections to literacy and language arts, history, math, great job.
Great.
Thank you so much, Mari.
I hope you'll come back for session 2 and 3, because that's when we're really gonna deep dive into some of the songs. So that's it.
Thank you so much, Mari.
I want to do the last song. I forgot.
Please, yes, the Saints.
Yes, good grief. Okay.
Oh, when the Saints go marching in. Oh, when the Saints go marching in. Oh, how I love being that number. Oh, when the Saints go marching in. I said, when the Saints go marching in. Oh, when the Saints go marching in. Oh, how I love being that number. Oh, when the Saints go marching in. Oh, when the Saints go marching in. Oh, when the Saints go marching in. Oh, how I love to be in that number. When the Saints go marching in. Oh, how I know they do that.
Okay. I'm just sharing this screen so people can see all the great students from Dillard that participated, and all the people that have helped with JazzSLAM.
Amazing. Mari, thank you so much for doing this for us today.
Oh, my pleasure, Jesse.
It's always a delight, especially like we were talking about before, to get young people interested in this music and to talk about all of the connections with literacy, with language arts, with poetry, with math. Students obviously have figured out today that music is very mathematical. They probably already knew that, though. They subdivide quite well, I'd imagine. Yeah, see, Mrs. Wilson says so. And thank you, Mrs. Wilson, and all the students from the Grass Valley Elementary chapter of the Jazz Education Network. You've heard me say that a couple times, but for everybody out there listening, we do have school chapters of our organization. You can form a chapter at the collegiate, the school, or the community level. It doesn't matter what kind of an organization you are. If your students or members of your group or organization are under 18 years old, they receive free memberships to Gen until they turn 19 and enter college. But for all of our high school and secondary and elementary teachers out there who teach jazz, please check us out online, jazzednet.org. You can form a chapter, you can join. We're providing a lot of virtual events during the COVID-19 crisis. We will be continuing those, we hope, afterwards. We also have our conference coming up in January. You can attend to see in-person sessions like this. You can also attend to see some of the best jazz anywhere on the planet. And you can connect with other teachers, other musicians, etc. Our conference, again, is in January. Please check us out online. Thank you so much for being with us for this session 1 of JazzSLAM. Let's say goodbye to all the kids. Unmute everybody and say goodbye.
Goodbye.
Bye, everyone. All right.
Bye.
See you later. See you on the next live event. Thank you all for joining us. Check us out on the web, jazzednet.org.
And thank you,
Bye.
Jesse.
Yeah, no problem. Bye, everyone.